everyone, and welcome to Crafted Creations. Today I'm going to paint this incredible Boss NASS 3D model by Landspeeder Luke. If you'd like to print this file for yourself, you can check out the link in the description below to Luke's Patreon. Now let's get started. First I'm going to prime this model with a coat of black paint. Doing this will allow me to get some shadows in the creases in the model. That way when we do some dry brushing or washes over the top, you won't really have to do as much detailing. You kind of have some shadows already baked into the model with having this layer of black. Once we get that primed, I'm going to use this flamenco red to block out the detailing on the robes. Since I'm going to paint the raised parts gold here, I'm working from the bottom layer up towards the surface level. The red is going to be the part behind the robe that's going to be underneath the gold layer. So doing it this way, it will prevent you from having to do as much line work when you're applying the gold. If you were to apply the gold first and you try to go back in and do this red later, it's going to make things a little bit difficult, which I did make that mistake here. You'll see shortly. Using reference pictures, it was hard to determine exactly what color Boss NASS's robes were. Some reference pictures had it looking different shades of brown, some had it looking more red. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and start applying this apple barrel brown to the rest of the trench coat here. After we do a few coats of this brown and get that nice and painted up, then we'll start working on the gold detailing here. And you'll notice here I did apply a little bit of brown over the red, just in the midst of the confusion of those reference pictures. Eventually I'm going to go back in and add another red wash on top of that to kind of meet it somewhere in the middle. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and start detailing all this gold lining here. Looking pretty good so far. And then once I get the detailing done with the gold, I'm going to go in and paint the black parts of the robe on the inside. I'm going to use this lighter shade of brown now on the cuffs, and then after that's on there, I'm going to give it a dark wash just to bring out some of the detailing and the sculpt work. Here's where I'm going back in and applying that red wash back to the inside. Now what I did here, so that I didn't have to do as much line work, I always really heavily watered down my paints. That way, on a surface like this where there's a lot of grooves and cracks, if you have a very heavily watered brush, if you just tap somewhere in between, the water will spread out evenly and amongst the surface. You really don't have to do as much work yourself lining those up. The water will just kind of settle into the cracks, and you'll get a nice even coat of paint. You may have to apply a couple different coats, but it will make your job a heck of a lot easier when you're working on surfaces like this. Once we get that all applied, I'm going to use this dark metallic silver and do a little bit of dry brushing on the shoulder pads and his helmet. go. Let's touch up the helmet here now. Once I'm done with this, I found a patina paint at Hobby Lobby that I'm going to go ahead and heavily water down. And I'm just going to go ahead and touch that all over the armor in random spots. With the same type of technique as doing that red wash. Once I have a heavily watered down brush, just tapping that paint will settle into the cracks and crevices. This is going to kind of give it a tarnished look from that metal being in the Gungan waters of Naboo. I couldn't figure out what was missing, so I ended up I'm going to go ahead and add some washes later to the shoulders. First, I'm going to go ahead and prime the skin tone with this vibrant shade of green here. Then I'm going to add some more muddy tones on top of that later. I like to, when doing skin tones, I like to apply the layers almost like washes. That way it adds illusion of texture to the skin. It also helps blend the shades better and more easily. Having the really heavily watered down brush, you don't get brush strokes, and just makes things go a lot smoother. Here I'm going to add this more brownish shade. You see how watered down my brush is? The paint's just going to seep into the cracks and surfaces. I have a fan set up off camera that allows me to dry this a little bit quicker than usual. So as it's drying, I can kind of just use my brush and move the paint along where I want. Here I'm going to use this other shade of kind of a more yellowy, greenish brown. This I'm going to lighten up the muzzle around Boss Nass's face. Same technique, very heavily watered down, just kind of slapping that all over the face. And then I can see as it's drying where the paint is settling. If I wet my brush, I can just kind of smear that over and move it along wherever I want. See right there, chin a little heavy. So if I go in with a little more water, I can move that around pretty easily there. Go ahead and apply that tone to the hands. Go ahead and use this darker shade and apply onto the toenails and the fingernails. Here I've got this almost cream color. It's got a little bit of a hint of gray. I'm just going to apply that and some dry brushing around the muzzle. And what I couldn't figure out what I was missing with the armor, I went back in and I applied a green wash to that. What my thought process here is, since it is metallic armor, it should be reflecting some of the color surrounding it. So applying a little bit of a green tint to that, give the illusion that the light from his skin is reflecting off of the helmet. So I applied that, and then I'm going to go ahead and add this black wash on top to just give that a little bit more tarnished look. Also, the black washes will settle into the cracks on the sculpt and bring out more detail in this amazing sculpt by Landspeeder Luke. And I also apply a wash to the rest of the helmet here, just to make it look a little bit more worn, dirty. And then here, I'm going to use my technique that I use for the eyes. I'm going to go ahead and use a vanilla white for the whites of the eyes. Working from the bottom layer up towards the surface, we're going to apply the whites of the eyes first. Then what I'm going to do after the whites of the eyes are done, I'm going to go ahead and take the black. I'm going to line up where I want the pupils to go. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger than normal, because then once we go in with the color of the eye, I'm going to make a smaller circle directly in the center of this one for the color. That will allow us to get that black outline on the outside of the eye without having to try to paint that yourself after the fact. So here we're going to go ahead and touch that yellow right in the middle. And went in a little too heavy, so I just took my brush and soaked up some of that yellow. Ready there. Once the yellow is in place, I will go in and just kind of mix a little red in there to give it more of a gold, kind of orangey amber look. Just going to go ahead and dot that a couple times just to add a little bit of texture and different color variation to the eye. Then what I do after we get the color for the eye, I'm going to take that black and dot the center of the color to make the actual pupil. And then I added two of the vanilla, two little dots, one on each eye to create an artificial highlight. And here I'm just going to add another little bit of a wash to the muzzle on Boss NASS here. And then do a little bit of a dark wash to bring out the detail in his face. Right here in the mouth. As you see how watered down that is, I just take the brush in and soak some of that back up. It gives you a lot more control. And there you have it, folks, my custom painted Boss NASS from Landspeeder Luke. Please leave a comment down below if you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more from me, don't forget to subscribe to the channel down below. And don't forget to check out Landspeeder Luke's incredible Black Series files on his Patreon. Links in the description down below if you'd like to start creating your own crafted creations. And as always, stay crafty.